Watch the killer's shadow. This is incredibly effective against stealth killers like Ghostface or Michael Myers, but it actually works for every killer in the game. Watch the shadows carefully. Go to the Game User Settings folder and find the shadow quality setting. It's likely set to 0, which means the killer has no shadow at all, and that's a huge mistake. Change that 0 to a 5, and killers will finally have visible shadows in-game. This is the ultimate counter to stealth killers. It's powerful that a Ghostface might actually message you after the game asking if you're using wall hacks. Pro tip: set your audio quality level to 5 in the config files. While the default is 2, level 5 significantly enhances the clarity of killer sounds, like Myers breathing or Ghostface's rustling. If you want to master sound whoring and never get gin grabbed again, this is a must-have setting. When it comes to mastering the loop, visual heartbeat support is an absolute game changer. While you can technically rely on audio cues to track the killer's distance, we all know how notoriously inconsistent DBD's sound engine can be. Don't leave your survival up to a potential audio bug. Ensure your heartbeat animation is set to on to maintain perfect awareness at all times. Colorblind settings are so impactful that people often ask if I'm using reshade, but this is the secret. Even if you don't have color blindness, the Tritanopia filter is a complete game changer that has easily boosted my looping efficiency by 20%. It makes the killer's red stain incredibly vivid and thick, giving you a massive advantage in tracking. However, a word of caution for creators: this filter saturates the reds so much that YouTube's algorithm might flag blood-heavy scenes or Morris as sensitive content. While Protanopia is subtle and Deuteranopia shifts everything toward orange, Tritanopia remains the gold standard for high-level play. I've been preaching this since my 2022 tutorials, and it's still the most underrated tip for any serious looper. You'll see a lot of tutorials telling you to turn the headphones setting on, but that is actually a massive mistake. If you've invested in a decent gaming headset, your hardware already handles spatial audio perfectly. When you enable this in-game setting, DBD tries to apply its own artificial processing on top of your headset's drivers, which completely distorts the soundstage. This is why people sometimes call me a hacker. They can't understand how I pinpoint the killer's exact coordinates through walls. The secret is simple. I keep the headphones setting off. By letting the raw stereo output flow directly to my headset, I get crystal clear directional cues that most players miss because their audio is being muffled by unnecessary software layers. For years, the community has speculated about my auto-dead hard timings, but the truth is much simpler. It's all about the connection. While I've spent thousands of hours developing what I call my grasshopper reflexes, those split-second frames mean nothing if your ping isn't on your side. In dead daylight, low latency is everything. Honestly, if your ping is consistently over 80, I wouldn't even recommend running dead hard. It's just too unreliable. Most of us in the EU are routed through Frankfurt, usually sitting at a mediocre 60 to 70 ping. However, I've found the ultimate fix. I've partnered with Exit Lag to optimize my routing, dropping my latency from a shaky 60 to a rock-solid 45 millisecond sweet spot. Exit Lag ensures you're always connected to the most stable server, like Frankfurt 01, preventing the game from throwing you into high-latency lobbies that ruin your loops. If you want that same competitive edge and frame-perfect accuracy, check the link in my description. Use code GRASSHOPPER at checkout for a special discount. Stop fighting the lag and start winning the chase. Here's a massive mistake I see constantly: binding dead hard to your keyboard. If you're still using the default E key, you're already at a disadvantage. In a high-stakes chase, your fingers on the keyboard are busy navigating and looping. They aren't always ready for that split-second reaction. For frame-perfect timing, dead hard belongs on your mouse, specifically mouse button 4. By having your thumb resting directly on the trigger at all times, you eliminate the travel time between keys. It transforms your reaction from a conscious effort into a pure instinct. If you want to hit those impossible dead hards consistently, move it to your mouse and feel the difference in your muscle memory immediately. You need to disable VSync within the DBD settings immediately. Here's why. Most modern monitors and GPU software like AMD Radeon already handle frame synchronization far more efficiently than the game's outdated engine. When you enable VSync in-game, You're essentially forcing two different systems to fight over your frame delivery, which creates massive input lag and stuttering. If your monitor supports FreeSync or G-Sync, or if you're using AMD's enhanced sync features, those are your best bets for a smooth experience. Keeping it on in Dead by Daylight will only destabilize your performance and make your movements feel heavy. Turn it off, let your hardware do its job, and enjoy a much more responsive, high-fidelity experience.
Let's talk about AMD settings. I've never seen any YouTube videos that focus on DVD settings specifically for players using AMD, so I hope this helps you out. I wouldn't really recommend Radeon Super Resolution for DBD as it boosts FPS by lowering the image quality. Since DBD is capped at 120 FPS, it doesn't make a significant difference in performance and might just reduce visual quality without improving the gameplay experience. As for AMD Fluid Motion frames, I wouldn't suggest using it either. It tries to add extra frames for smoother motion, but since DBD is capped at 120 FPS, this feature isn't effective here either. Now, Radeon Anti-Lag is definitely something I recommend. It reduces input lag, which is really important in DBD, where precise timing can make all the difference. It can make your gameplay feel more responsive and smoother. When it comes to Radeon Chill, I'd suggest keeping it disabled. While it's meant to save power by limiting FPS, it can hinder responsiveness in DBD, and you need every bit of responsiveness in this game. Finally, Radeon Image Sharpening is a feature I would definitely use. It improves the clarity of the visuals, making DBD look more HD, especially on higher resolution displays. Anisotropic filtering is one of my settings and I have it enabled. This makes the game's visuals sharper, especially enhancing the clarity of distant surfaces. I set the anisotropic filtering level to 16x because it provides sharper and crisper images. 16x is the highest quality level in the game world. If your computer isn't that powerful, you can set it to 4x instead. This depends on your system's power, so it's important to find the best result through trial and error. I set texture filtering quality to high because high quality textures look more beautiful and clear. However, I choose not to use surface format because this option can sometimes lead to unnecessary performance losses. I leave tessellation mode to AMD optimized because on AMD cards, this usually provides the best performance. Finally, I keep OpenGL disabled. This option is mostly unnecessary for DBD and can negatively affect performance, so it's best to leave it off. Another important setting is anti-aliasing method. I prefer the super sampling option. This makes the images smoother, especially softening the edges. Super sampling increases the resolution to make the images clearer and sharper, thus minimizing aliasing, pixelated edges. However, this setting can put extra load on your computer because it processes at a higher resolution. If your PC isn't powerful, enabling this setting may lower your performance. So it's best to use super sampling depending on your system's capacity. If you don't have a very powerful system, you might want to consider using lower anti-aliasing options. I wouldn't recommend using color settings because they don't only affect DBD, they also impact your desktop. You can't change this for just the game, and it can lead to unwanted changes in how everything else looks on your screen. Instead, simply set AMD FreeSync to AMD optimized and move on. Of course, this only works if your monitor supports FreeSync technology. This setting will help improve performance and smooth out your gameplay experience without affecting your entire system's visuals.
For creators, don't hide your Quest notifications. Keeping them visible is the ultimate proof that you're in a live public match and not a staged custom game. When that challenge completed pop-up appears after a pallet stun, it instantly silences the skeptics. It's the easiest way to prove your gameplay is 100% authentic without saying a word.